Listen, I'm not just saying this because the Cubs signed him. I think you all know me better than that. I think Nerys could have helped the Cardinals, but I expressed some reservations about him long before the Cubs went with him because he's lost fastball velocity. I mean, he's 34 years old. He's pitched a lot. And last year he did have a good, he had a really good ERA. Don't get me wrong, 1.71. Bottom line was good. So I don't want to nitpick too much, just like we were talking about with the Blues. But when you see a reliever who's going to coming in late innings and he's not throwing as hard as he used to, there is an increased vulnerability there. That's all I'm trying to say. So we'll see what happens. And his walk rate last season, really, he pitched out of a lot of trouble. His walk rate really, it almost doubled last year, and his strikeout rate went down by a couple points. So he was really good for the Astros last year. But the other thing I saw about him is that he wasn't I got to make sure I'm right about this, and I forgot to look it up. So just give me a second because it won't take long. Here I go again. Every day, multiple times. Last year, actually, I'm glad I looked because I was going to say something that would have been incorrect. He actually was really good last season in high leverage situations, which has not been the case in his career. You know, in high leverage, we're just talking about game on the line. I mean, you're in a position of great influence based on how you perform. And, before last season, he had some, for high leverage numbers, pretty crummy numbers for the Phillies and then the Astros in 2022. But they were really good last year. So I think that's what the Cubs are looking at and figuring out, hey, for 1 year, what the hell? It's only 1 year. So it's not like they signed him to a multi-year deal. So I don't know. The bottom line is, of course, Cardinals still need bullpen help, I think. But as Jim Ewer has said, and I've come around more and more to this conclusion, I keep waiting for something to happen that isn't just a minor league pickup type guy or just some guy. I knew they're never going to spend the money on one of the more expensive relievers, but I've kept expecting. Well, they're surely going to address this, right? I don't know. I'm thinking maybe not.
I continue to lean that way, and here the other side of this, it makes me feel like I'm really criticizing them. I do think this though, Bernie. I see some of the money that's being thrown out there. I go, I don't know if I give that guy that much money either.
Right.
You know, you mentioned Nerys, but his side of things, I thought there might have been something with Hicks to come back. But then when you see, somebody going to give him a chance to start, you go, well, that pulls the Cardinals out of that mix because I wouldn't give him that opportunity to do that. And there have been others. And then I think Brazier's still out there. He's been one of the guys that's been talked about, but it sounds like his dollars are going to be a little overpriced as well. So maybe, at least they'll have some new options with some of these young kids that they brought up. Now, if they fail, then it's like, oh boy, here we go again. But with Chaim Bloom kind of, in the background a little bit, there should be at least a different feel to what some of these guys should bring compared to what the organization has brought up to you in the last couple of years where you went, oh boy, this guy again? So we'll see.
It's, yeah, and, by the way, I want to say this in advance because everybody knows the respect I have for Derek Gould, and I think Linworthy does a heck of a job. But there have been a couple of stories in recent days that, through no fault of the writer, it has nothing to do with the writer. He's just reporting how the Cardinals see things. Both of those things have focused on the bullpen, both of the pieces. And Lynn's piece, which ran today, and I enjoyed it. He did a good job on it. He explained how the Cardinals believe that their starting pitching depth has changed and can help the bullpen. Okay, that's an operating theory that does have some validity because, when you get more innings from your starters, and innings do matter, it puts less of a burden on your bullpen. You can take a game a little deeper, and then you can turn it over to some of your better relievers. And then Derek wrote a really interesting thing about how the Cardinals, they've been trying to build a better bullpen by adding more strikeout stuff, but did they? And he asked a good question because the answer is not sure. The answer is they have added some guys that have shown that they have heavy strikeout potential. Like there's a reason to believe that'll kind of turn in a favorable way for the Cardinals as these guys fully develop and get to the major leagues. They've got that potential. That's why the Cardinals like them. But there's also, who knows? Who knows if that will actually manifest itself in results? I don't know. I think Nick Robertson is one of those guys. I mean, you could see in some of the StatCast stuff, you can see that he's got some heat. He's nasty. He has at times in the minors demonstrated like big strikeout punch, but it's not been consistent, and it hasn't really surfaced all that much in the majors. Although he hasn't been in the majors for a great number of times. So, but my point is this: and this is why I brought the stories up. When there's not one but two stories in recent days about the same topics, well, this could make the bullpen better. Okay, now it's well, they want a certain style of reliever. They believe that they have them now. They believe they'll have more strikeout stuff, but will they really? My point is like, you're operating on theories here, not the writers, but the team. They're just explaining the team's philosophy on this. That's their job, and they do a good job of it. I don't understand people get mad at writers because they ask somebody a question. Tell us how you feel about your bullpen and why you think there'll be strikeouts. And then when the writer, responds, puts the answer in, they're ripping the writer. I never figured that out. But from a just judging the Cardinals standpoint, when the things that you're saying publicly all come down to a theory about, well, we signed starters, so, our bullpen's going to be better. And it's like, well, we brought some guys in here, may not be big names, but we think they have real potential to be strikeout guys in our bullpen. Nowhere in either one of those two theories is there any voice from the team saying, well, these guys have done it. And, we know these guys can do it because they've done it, repeatedly in the big leagues. No, nobody's saying that. It's all based on theory. And so theories are nice. Theories are nice. I like theories. I come up with theories. But you know what I like? If you have a bullpen and you're pinning your hopes on theories, is it impolite for me to suggest maybe you pin those hopes on a proven track record in the major leagues where someone has already shown you that, well, this is who they are, this is what they do, this is what they're capable of, because we've seen them do it at the big league level, and they've done it, not just once or twice, they've done it. They've got a history of doing it. I would prefer that to theories. That's just me. Because you know what theories become? Theories can be spun in a way where you are sort of covering, at least for now, you're covering your backside, right? You're kind of stalling it until you can see what exactly you might have, or what you do have. So you're putting it out there. Well, we think this. Our theory in this. Oh, well, we think that. They don't know that. They're going with theories instead of actual, performance records. I'd rather have the performance records. See, because this is what the Cardinals do. They'll fudge it because it's like they're trying to spin it in a way to put a positive, kind of a positive attachment to it. Oh, we think this because. We think that because. But they know that a lot of theories have been blown to smithereens. I'll tell you one theory that was blown to smithereens before the 2023 season. Well, actually before the 21 season. Well, we really like our starting pitching. We feel we have more than enough. Before the 2022 season. Well, We're very happy with our starting pitching. You know, if anything, we may have too many guys before last year. Well, we're pleased with our starting pitching. You know, you look around and, candidly, we have 7 or 8 guys that we think can be starting pitchers in the big league if we should run into some problems. Theories, maybes, hoping, wish casting, right?
Yes, very much so.
And in all 3 situations, what happened? He had to go out and chase starting pitchers at the trade deadline, and I'm glad he did because he got Lester and Happ, and those guys did a really good job for what the Cardinals needed at that time. And then the next year, John Mozeliak did even better. They were chasing pitching again. At the deadline, they got Montgomery and Quintana. Those guys were outstanding. And last year, for this year, after last year, they were proven wrong again in their own assessments of starting pitching. Then it's like, oh, okay. Yeah, I guess we were wrong about that one. And they go out and what seemed like, I'm exaggerating on purpose, it seemed like in about, 15 hours they signed 3 starting pitchers. And I like the signings. I like them a lot, especially if what I believe to be true actually happens, that Lance Lynn's home run rate will normalize and he'll benefit from Busch Stadium. But they're just not proactive enough because they're banking on all these theories that are going to work in their favor rather than not working, right? And they end up chasing their own tail, so to speak, right?
Yes.
Now, at least they were proactive this offseason by getting 3 starters, but number one, it's fair to say, could they have done better if they were going to pick 3? Could they have done better? Yeah, within reason, though, because, again, I'm sorry. They're not going to spend what some of these other teams spend on starting pitching. You know why? Because they've never done it during Bill DeWitt's time as the owner. You talk about a track record. So I've got, my hopes or my expectations are realistic. And I think what they had to spend, or it shouldn't be that, what they wanted to spend, they did well. Could they have maybe gotten a third starter better than Lynn? I think so, but, I think Lynn's worth a bet here. So maybe I'm theorizing. No, I think he's worth a bet. Does he want to continue pitching beyond this season? Does he want to increase his value and sort of get his reputation back in line by having a good, solid season? Yeah, I think he's highly motivated to do that because he's 37 now, or he'll be 37 during the season. And if he's a train wreck again this year, well, he's pretty much done. And I think Lance Lynn loves what he does for a living. I think he's really happy to be back with the Cardinals. He knows that he's got to change some things, and he wants to get after it because his viability as a major league starting pitcher is very much on the line, and that kind of stuff is healthy. So I'm more optimistic than pessimistic about him. But if you think I'm sitting here, oh no, write him down. Oh, write him down. He's going to have a 3.09 ERA, and he's going to strike out 28%. He's going to have about 19 quality starts, maybe even 20. No, I'm not saying any of that. But I do think there's a basis for some guarded optimism. Anything, Jim?
One thing about the pitching needing more, I agree that they need more. And while you were talking, it made me just pop in my head a little thought here. Mm-hmm. There's that adage, you never have enough pitching, starting pitching, any pitching. And this team has shown, like you said, well, they're always a little short here, a little short there. I would go to the Cardinals and go, you know what? Go get more pitching. Well, then what are we going to do with them? Trust me, somebody else is going to need that pitching. It's a value, it's a commodity that then you can use as your strength to get something else that you may need. I don't, it's like, oh, well, we don't have any place for him. Well, somebody needs a place for him, and you can use that to go get something else. It's like, quit looking at it in that respect and look at it as a strength, and then in which you can use to strengthen your team in other areas. I don't know. They've never done it, so, we have that discussion. I'm never going to expect it, but maybe once just give it a shot, guys, and see where it gets you, because you're always going to end up on the short end, and they've proven it the last 3 3.5 years. We got to go get more.
One note before we take a break here, and we have Ira Kaufman coming up at the bottom of the hour to talk about the NFC, AFC games yesterday, but also the Super Bowl matchup with the Niners and the Chiefs. The Cardinals made a move today. They claimed Alfonso Rivas from the Pirates on waivers and added him to the 40-man roster, and for that they let Moises Gomez go. Moises Gomez was a Thunder bat 2 years ago, but he always had a swing, miss, and strikeout problem. And then his stats, he really sort of backed up last year. Like he wasn't as good, not nearly as good as he was in 2022, because the plate discipline issues really something that's kind of held him back. But the raw power is there. So I know what, of course, a lot of Cardinals fans, or maybe a few, will say, well, that's what we heard about Odolis Garcia. Well, listen, I tell you what, if Moises Gomez becomes Odolis Garcia, well, good for him. I don't see it, but you can remind me of that if I'm wrong. The thing about Rivas, believe it or not, there are some things to like. Yeah, they picked up a guy from the Pirates. If they're waiving him, what do they need with him? Well, number one, they're probably thinking about their AAA team. But number two, he is, first of all, he was drafted in the fourth round back in 2018 by the Billy Beane administration. They're pretty good about identifying talent in the draft. At least they were then. And he's a left-handed bat. He plays first base. He can play a little left field, a little right field. And in his career, he has had times. He's been in the majors parts of the last 3 seasons. Not for long stays, although he played quite a bit for the Pirates last year. And he's put up some, again, it's hard to base it on his major league time because it's kind of been intermittent. But he hits right-handed pitching pretty well, all things considered. Like last year for the Pirates, he 103 plate appearances against right-handed pitchers. He had a .330 on base percentage. That's good. That's not bad at all. That's fine. And he slugged .456. That's fine. And he had 8 home runs, a double, and 3 triples in 90 at-bats. So he's got some pop. I mean, he has demonstrated that. And he's really demonstrated that in the minors. But the difference between him, maybe and some others, he has shown signs of being able to do that in the majors. Although, is it likely? I have no idea. I would say no. But is there enough there to say, you know what, it's not a bad guy to have in reserve because you're going to face 75% right-handed pitchers on your plate appearances anyway. But the only thing that's interesting, and this will be the final thing about it, it's kind of redundant. Let's see. A left-handed hitter who could be your backup first baseman. So you had Alec Burleson, you have him, and then you added Matt Carpenter, and now you've added this fella. So now you've got 3 guys, 3 left-handed hitters who basically do the same thing, right?
Yes.
In terms of their profile.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of problematic, isn't it?
Boy, they love this administration. They love redundancy. They love log jams. And if there aren't log jams, it's like, well, let's create another one. We don't have enough of them. Always putting together log jams. And then they complain about the log jams to explain why this outfielder didn't hit and that outfielder's been blocked. And, well, we have a log jam and we really need to alleviate that. And it really doesn't change anything in a global sense, in a powerful sense. Some of the people that were being held back, they played. It's not like, all of a sudden they're, it's a reincarnation of, Tony Gwynn and Tris Speaker, okay? But once they ease the log jams a little bit, then they just go ahead and create another one now. What are you going to do with 3 guys that all bat left-handed can, at least in theory, hit against right-handed pitchers, but they're limited defensively. Like, what are you going to – what? Huh? I don't know.
That's a dilemma. It really is.
So today I got to reason number 9 for cautious Cardinals optimism. And I just described it as hungry hearts. And what do I mean by that? Well, first of all, I do think they're going to be improved. I can't really say how much, but I really do believe they're going to be improved. And I'm not the only one, and I'm not being a homer here. Like MLB.com put them in a group of 6 teams, I think it was, that will take the biggest jump in 2024. ESPN, if you remember, came out last week with a piece. They listed Cardinals one of 5 teams in 2024 that'll have a breakout. Breakout as in do much better than people think. Joel Reeder, who writes baseball, and he has for a long time at Bleacher Report, he's really good. He brought out what he says, like, pre-spring training power rankings, and I was curious. I always like to see where people put the Cardinals. So he had them at 14th. Now, as I said in the piece that I wrote, no one should aspire to we're number 14. So I'm not endorsing that because that's the first thing people are going to say. Well, the whole goal here is to win the World Series, not to be 14th, Bertie. Yeah, I know. Thank you, but I know. However, last year when you were tied for 26th in the majors in winning percentage, including tied for 13th in the National League, the only National League team with a poorer winning percentage in the Cardinals was Colorado. You were tied with Washington, for goodness sake. Then you look at 14th and you say, well, that's okay in a way. That can't be the end-all, be-all. But there is a feeling out there that this team already is better than it was last year because if you want to get technical about it, they go from 26th, first power rating at Bleacher Report, they're up to 14th. It's a start. It's somewhere to build on, I guess. But it just shows you if you go to outside opinions, I think you get more like a more level-headed appraisal of where the Cardinals are. That's all I'm trying to say. So he had them 14th, but the thing that's interesting about that is that Joel Reeder of Bleacher Report had the Cardinals in the power rankings, had them at the top of the NL Central. I mean, he's got the Reds 15th overall, the Cubs 16th overall, and then the Pirates are down. Milwaukee is after that, and then Milwaukee's after that somewhere. So it's interesting to see an independent guy who covers baseball for a long time. He does it well. Think that the Cardinals right now are the best team in the division. However, the offseason isn't over yet, and I think we all expect the Cubs to make a couple of more moves that have some pop to them. So that may change as far as the power rankings. But my reason, number 9, is that, I call it hungry hearts. If you think about, I always like teams when I'm trying to figure out with a team that's got some talent, for sure, who just had a brutal 2023. And a lot of it was their own sloppiness, and we've been over that a million times. But they didn't have enough pitching, and that caused the cave-in. But there was a lot that went into it. I've always, when I'm trying to identify teams that I think could take a big leap, I want to try to get a sense of how hungry they are. And one way you do that is you say, well, who's got stuff to prove? And with the Cardinals, it's no exaggeration, and if you're going to be consistent about this, you would agree with the fact that they have a lot of players with a lot to prove, and from what I can tell, they want to get busy proving it. So you can't say, well, they're garbage, they're terrible, blah, 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 blah. Well, you can't say that and then say, well, who has stuff to prove? They all do. Well, yeah, that's my point. They all do, just about. And when you have a lot of guys hungry, determined to bounce back and to do their part to make the team better for 2024, that can be a really good thing. It should be a really good thing because the Cardinals have people in place that have a lot to prove. Ali Marmol, we've already discussed that. Ali Marmol doesn't have a contract right now beyond the 24 season. This is in no particular order, by the way. Ali Marmol's like hungry to improve, and he knows it. He says it. He admits it. He's got to be better. He doesn't dance away from that. It's quite the opposite. Miles Miklasz got a lot to prove. 3.29 ERA and 22 quality starts in 2022. Last year, a 4.78 ERA and 14 quality starts. He's 35. He is absolutely motivated to return to form, and he's cooking up an improved slider. Of course, he needs a better defense behind him. You got Yadier Molina. Well, what does he have to prove? Well, he'll help the organization, but he won't be a full-time coach, and exactly what he'll do and when remains to be determined. But he wants to be a big league manager. So what does he have to prove? Well, he's got to prove that in 2024, he has an opportunity to basically validate his belief that he can be a really good major league manager. But he'll have to kind of just let people that are looking, including the Cardinals, got to see exactly how he goes about it this year and how much he puts into it. He's got a lot on the line. John Mozeliak, for obvious reasons. I don't even need to talk about that. But he at least got out there quick and got 3 starting pitchers to address the primary need. And he did trade for a really good major league reliever in Andrew Kittredge. There's still time to rehab his image a little bit. He can do it in a number of ways. I'll tell you one way, go get some damn bullpen help before the start of the season. And be aggressive at the trade deadline. And I think he is more determined, or he wouldn't have signed those 3 starting pitchers right away. Steven Matz has a hell of a lot to prove. And the one thing I've always said about Matz, he's a good guy. He cares. He wants to be good. And he's really frustrated because he knows he's let the team down. He does care. And he's doing everything he can to make sure this is going to be a healthy season. All a guy can do is try. But he cares, and he's hungry to prove it, to show it. Lance Lynn, I mentioned this earlier. He'll be 37 in May. He was brutal last season for the White Sox and Dodgers. Gave up 48 cannonball home runs in 180 innings. That includes 1 postseason start. But he's got a chance to better to have a reset in a place where it all started for him, Busch Stadium. Kind of get back to where his roots were. And he's inspired. He's got a 1-year make-good contract. If he wants to continue to pitch and receive good money, well, this is the year he's got to reestablish that he's capable of doing that he's solid. He can be solid. Paul Goldschmidt entering the final season of his 5-year contract, be 37 in September. The Cardinals have taken a neutral stance on the idea of a new contract to keep him here. I would say Goldie's got a lot to prove, right? Mm-hmm. Nolan Arenado, third baseman. Let's see. He declined defensively by quite a bit in 23. He's bypassed in the Gold Glove voting for the first time in his career. He had his worst full season OPS plus in his career. His home run count went from 42 to 26. His slugging percentage went down 74 points. He was frustrated. He was miserable. He kind of withdrew. He just was not easy to be around for those guys down there because he was so ticked off about everything. And he proclaimed to Katie Woot, the Athletic, that he is hungry as could be. He's never been this hungry to redeem himself. I'm going to take him at his word because he's got to make this work. He's under contract for a long time. So he's either going to be part of the solution or he's going to be whatever the heck happened to him last year. He can't be that guy again. Lars Nootbaar, he's got stuff to prove. He's got talent. Can he stay healthy enough for that talent to fully flourish? He's done well, but he hasn't fulfilled his potential. I'd say he's got to prove he can put it all together, and he knows this. Number 10, Ryan Helsley. Ryan Helsley got a lot on the line. Money, because he can become a free agent after the 25 season. So after working 54 games, pitching 65 innings in 2022, he had that forearm. He only pitched in 33 games, only threw 36 innings. His performance in high leverage situations really declined in 2023. Strikeout rate down, walk rate up. He's got two choices: build a stronger resume to enhance his big money earnings potential, or take another step back. He's got a lot to prove because he's a very important guy to this team. Mason Wynn's got a lot to prove because he's a kid. He's a young man. But a lot of the people in the fan base, based on 37 games or whatever, decided, he can't hit in the major leagues. Okay. No one's more driven to be all he can be than Mason Wynn. You never have to worry about his motivation level. The guy's wired in, strives to get better every day that he's anywhere near a baseball park. Jordan Walker, you think he's tired of everybody talking about how bad he is defensively? Smart guy, a lot of pride. He's got to be tired of it by now. He improved late last season defensively, but I don't know how many people outside of St. Louis, for example, really took note of that. They just think, that guy can't play the outfield at all. He's working his tail off to get this done. So, yeah, he's got a lot to prove, and he wants to prove it. I think Daniel Descalso's got stuff to prove. You know why? He's on the managerial track. He's the new bench coach. Just think about 2022. I know that doesn't count anymore, no, they won 93. No, nobody cares about that because it was a long time ago, 2022. Anyway, they won 93 games in the NL Central title. Skip Schumacher got a lot of attention, a lot of credit, a lot of praise for being an excellent bench coach for Ali Marmol. And his value as a potential managerial candidate went up just because of that. And he got hired by the Marlins just because of that. So if the Cardinals have a big turnaround season in 24, Descalso is going to be an appealing candidate. His name's going to be prominent in some of the next wave of hirings if he makes an impact. So, he's got stuff to prove. And if he can help turn this team around, that's going to get him to where he wants to be sooner. Wilson Contreras, I don't really need to get into this. The Cardinals did him wrong last year. They really did him wrong early on with all the whining pitchers and Marmol panicking and all that. This is a really good spot for him now because he goes into spring training. There's no WBC. There's no pitchers bailing out. They have new starting pitchers. All these guys want to work with him. They've been talking to him. They're all on the same page. He don't have to deal with this craziness. And I think, just to be able to concentrate fully on the work, he'll prove that he can get better defensively. And you better believe he's determined to do that. Except now he's going to have everybody wearing the same uniform pulling for him instead of working against him. That's a big deal to me. Bill DeWitt Jr., only because ownership's always the focal point. And he has, overall, his tenure in St. Louis has been excellent. But when you go 71 and 91 and everything falls apart, more and more people are going to be looking at Bill. That's just the way it works. Todd Edman, I think he's a good center fielder. The Cardinals evidently believe he's Willie Mays. Okay, I'm open-minded. And for the first time in his career, Edman's going to have to show that he can thrive in center field, not for a month, not for 7 weeks, but over an entire season. There's a lot to prove there. You'll laugh at the next one, and that's all right. Dylan Carlson. Is there anyone that's going to be in spring training that has more to prove than this guy? Does he realize everyone's pretty much written him off? And, all this promise, all this talent, whatever happened to him? I got to believe that the pride is going to kick in more than it ever has. He's going to fight back. If he wants to prove himself and he's hungry enough to really go all out on this, that's a positive development for the Cardinals. Nolan Gorman, last year as a second-year player, he increased his slugging percentage by 58 points. He put up a 13% improvement on OPS plus. As a rookie, he homered every 20 at-bats. Last year, he went deep every 15 at-bats. That's good. His career's off to a good start. Can he make even more progress and get even better and better in year 3? And given that he has to deal with back pain, is that something that he can compete with without significant interruptions? There's a lot to prove there still. And number 20, and that was the last one I put on this, was Brendan Donovan. Terrific hitter, exceptional plate discipline. Also coming off elbow surgery, and after making strides in 2023, He's trying to build on the power increase that he showed in 2024. He also has made it clear, and I talked about this at the beginning of the offseason, he's told the Cardinals he wants to move into a team leader role because he thinks like one of the younger veterans really needs to start to move in that direction, and he's absolutely right. So on multiple fronts, 2024 looms as a big year for Brendan Donovan. So my point, and I don't think I'm exaggerating it, there's a lot of guys going to be wearing that uniform who are hungry and got a lot to prove. And we don't have to tell them they have a lot to prove because they seem to know that already and they seem determined to change it. Can that make a difference? Well, sure it can. Sure it can. Why wouldn't it? Why wouldn't the same people that disappointed this team last year have so much pride that they're not going to let it happen again and they're going to play to their ability? How can your team not be better? How can your manager, who accepts full responsibility for what happened last year, how can he not go into 2024 in a better frame of mind and prepared to be a better manager? You know what I'm saying?
I agree. Yep.
So anyway, what did you think of the list?
I dead on a lot of those and why and how they can improve. I mean, there's a lot of guys with something to prove and get better at. And here's the thing about what
those are dangerous teams.
Yes. And the one thing about the players you mentioned, there's talent there. They just got to, they got to realize that talent, so to speak, and be better than where,
We'll take a timeout after that. I wanted to share that with you. Again, I don't usually cross-promote. Well, if I don't do it very well, I should more often. But if you go to scoopswithdannymac.com, you can see the first 8 parts of this. I've been banging one out every other day or so. And I've enjoyed probing all this stuff. It's kind of fun to do it. But you can see them in order, and you just click on what you may have missed.